I find it hypocritical that Australians jump up and down about issues such as the Japanese whaling. While I do think that is bad and it needs to be stopped, we do have our own issues here in our own backyard. We've got an Appendix 1 endangered species in the turtle and the dugong being indiscriminately slaughtered and absolutely decimated from areas around northern Queensland.
Okay, now you filmed a number of incidents. Tell me about, first of all, the turtle kill. Where was that and what happened?
So when I approached both Colin Riddell and Bob Owen and said what needs to be done about this issue, what they wanted was fresh footage, and we'd heard numerous reports of excessive killing and excessive cruelty being inflicted on these animals, and the main areas of concern was the Torres Straits. So it was decided that I would fly up to the Torres Straits and get some fresh footage. So first of all landed in Horn Island and then chartered a boat and went around.
Now tell me about the turtle kill. Where was that? And describe it for me.
The turtle kill was on, they actually caught the turtle 2 days before, and I found it on the beach. It was tied to a tether and it was in complete distress. It was basically 50 metres down from the beach, tied to a pole, and it was only getting water when the tide would come in, so half the day it would be out burning in the sun. You could see its skin drying out. Now I decided to sit with that turtle all afternoon, and I knew it was going to face a really bad death because I'd heard reports about how they kill these animals. So I sat there all afternoon. They didn't kill it that day. I came back the next morning, and sure enough, probably about mid-morning, a group of local islanders came down, and there was complete, utter mutilation of this turtle.
And tell me about that kill. How did it, what did they do to it?
Basically they dragged it out of the water, flipped it on its back. You could see it was already terrorised. It was flapping around madly, and they came up with this concrete block and basically tried to slam it in the head, obviously to stun the animal. It didn't quite work. They did it 3 more times by memory, and this turtle was, for a moment it was shocked, but then it woke up, it realised what was happening, and by that stage they didn't really care anymore. They brought out their knives, and before they started hacking off its fins, they wanted to check if it was pregnant, and sure enough this turtle was a mature age turtle, had up to 125 eggs in it. Was going to be the next generation of turtles, but they decided to cut it up right there and then, and it was still alive, flapping around madly. They started with the front flippers, and one by one just cut the flippers off as the blood spurted out. This poor turtle took up to 7.5 minutes to die. I was literally 6 feet away from it, listening to it gasping for air, and it was just staring at me like it was something I've never been in this situation before. It made me frustrated, and I was really angry, and I wanted to intervene, but at the same time I knew I had to get this footage. I know this wasn't an isolated incident. It's happening all the time, every day. I spoke to the islanders about it, and I said, is this your standard way of killing them? And they said yes, pretty much all turtles are cut up alive. So I was really shocked by this, and the whole thing went on for about 45 minutes, but the turtle was alive for about 7.5 minutes, and it actually didn't die. All the fins and flippers had been cut off. Didn't actually die until they took off the bottom shell. Actually peeled off the shell and then just let out one last gasp of air and passed away.
Now tell me about, you're obviously deeply moved by that, but you could argue that hitting it over the head with the Besser block was an attempt to just kill it, stun it before they started cutting it up. Do you think that was a humane act?
I do not think it was a humane act at all. There's other ways to quickly kill an animal. These guys, yes, they did attempt to stun it, but they didn't care whether it was stunned or not. And I think the most appalling thing out of this whole incident is there are no cruelty laws in Queensland. The Queensland government condones what happens there. And I say they condone it because they have no ambition to change these cruelty laws. If that happened in the rest of Australia, there'd be heavy fines, there'd be an uproar, people would be facing heavy, probably jail time for it, and heavy fines. In Queensland, they can do whatever they want and they can do it freely. Now, without those cruelty laws being changed, they're under no pressure to change their ways of killing these animals. So what happened there wasn't an isolated incident. People might argue it's just one-off, but to what I say to them is, no, you can go onto YouTube, you can type in turtle mutilation, live killing of a turtle, you can see past evidence. This has been documented, and this is how they kill them in Queensland.
So tell me about the dugong kill. Where was that, and describe to me what happened?
The dugong that I filmed was actually, I didn't actually film them kill it, but what I did film was them bring it back to shore. Now, the way they kill these animals, it was explained to me by the islanders themselves. They go out, they spear them at sea, they then tie the tail to the back of the boat, and they hold the head underwater. And it can take up to 7.5 minutes again. So I've been told, for that dugong to drown.
I'm worried about one part of your question is, you said you and your colleagues. He had no colleagues, he was alone, and we hired that. It was only him.
Was that the entrapment question?
Yeah.
We'll record Sarah asking that question.
Yeah, because there was no colleagues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went up there helping Bob and I,
yeah.
and he hired that boat up there in Ben's
that's okay.
Yeah, it's good. As long as that's clear, because he still has to go there and didn't get attacked because he wasn't involved.
Okay, so with the dugong, you filmed a dugong being keel-hauled and another dugong being cut up on the beach. Are they the same animal?
No, they actually caught 2 dugongs in 2 days. The first one that I saw was them hauling it in behind the back of the boat, drowned. And they took it up onto shore, and I went up to the hunter who killed it and said, "Can I watch you cut it up?" He said, "Yes, you can, but we're going to do it tomorrow morning." So we came back the next morning. I got a lift into shore at first light, came up, the dugong was missing. And we asked around and said, "Where's it gone?" And apparently, this is what we're told by the islanders themselves, they cut it up overnight, and they transport, because they didn't want me to witness it, they transported it back to Horn Island, and it was going to be sent down south to feed family members.
So they didn't want you to see it being cut up and packed?
They did not want me to see it being cut up and packed, and they definitely did not want me to see that it was going to be transported out of the community.
And the other dugong you filmed being actually cut up, that was already dead?
That was already dead. Came back down to the beach, looked in one of the tinnies, and there was a dugong in the tinny. I'm like, okay, well, here's another one. And it was from a different hunter, and I asked, "Can I witness you cutting it up?" He had absolutely no issues with that. He said, "You're welcome." He even said, "You can film it if you want." But in the end, I decided to discreetly film it, and they were completely fine with me watching that, and they dragged it up onto shore and slowly carved it up and butchered it.
So the eskies that you filmed at Cairns Airport, do you know what was in those eskies?
Do not know 100% for a fact what was in those eskies, but I have heard numerous reports and been told by the islanders themselves that they are transporting an excessive amount of turtle and dugong down to Cairns. Now on my flight, I think there was about 6 or 7 eskies that come off, and I've been told that is almost a daily routine.
And is that meat sold or passed out?
Again, I do not know 100% whether it is sold, but I do know that they are trading it, and there are instances of them selling it down here. I don't know how widespread it is, but apparently it is quite a problem. But the issue that I see here is whether they're actually selling that meat or not, what they're doing is they're still trading it. They're still bringing it down, and they're passing it out to family members who don't live in the community anymore, who are living down south, who have access to other meats. And what that's doing is actually making the killing up north more excessive, because there is a demand for it down south. So whether they're actually selling it or not, it's still quite a big issue here. Traditionally, they caught these animals, took them back to the community, and fed the community. At the moment, it's not traditional hunting. Now, from what I understand and what I observed and what I spoke to the islanders about, is the head hunters on all these islands are actually the rangers themselves. Now, this money has gone into their pockets. It's going to help them buy outboard motors and help them basically go and hunt these turtle and dugong down in bigger numbers.
Were any of the people you saw hunting and killing animals rangers?
Yes, they were, 100%. I saw this in my own eyes. I met all the rangers, basically had tried to chat to them, and they were very shy around me. They didn't want to come out and open, but I saw them hopping in tinnies and going out there and hunting.
And what did they bring back, turtle or dugong?
Both. They were catching both. And on some islands, they were hunting every day. Under the current government policy, each community has to come up with their own turtle and dugong management plans. And while they've all written it down on paper, none of them are actually following their own guidelines. They have it there to appease the government, but they're not following it.